If there's one thing this crisis between the United States and Iran has just exposed, it's something most people never saw coming. Iran is secretly a new superpower, just not the kind you've been taught to recognize. Of course, you might dismiss this as nothing but a bold statement. How can a country that always seems on the edge of chaos be a superpower? It doesn't have massive aircraft carriers like the United States. Its cities don't project the same level of advancement as that of China. It doesn't even possess the kind of nuclear arsenal associated with Russia. By every standard we've been taught to believe in, it just doesn't seem to fit. But what if I told you that there's a twist in their story that most of us aren't aware of until now? It holds the power that could have an impact globally, because real power isn't always about what a country can display. It's about what the world cannot avoid. Its power has become so immense that even the richest countries are secretly negotiating with them. And if this feels surprising, it shouldn't. Because this isn't the first time this land has held that kind of power. Long before the modern world even had a concept of superpowers, this land was already at the center of one. The Persian Empire stretched from the Mediterranean all the way to India. This empire shaped civilizations and commanded a vast share of the known world. Names like Cyrus the Great and Darius are etched in our history books as some of the greatest leaders that ever lived. With Iran regaining its storied legacy in the past, we can't help but ask, was it ever just luck? Or is there something embedded within this nation that others can only dream of? And the answers to these questions start with something most people rarely think about. It's geography. The natural formations formed millions of years ago helped the country to be almost invincible from outside forces. Because what defines a superpower is not only the ability to project force outward, rather, also the ability to resist pressure from the outside. This nation sits in a massive elevated plateau, with much of its land rising roughly 4,000 feet above sea level. This creates a natural highland basin, one that is surrounded on nearly all sides by formidable geographic barriers. If these aren't enough, then, between these mountains lies an environment that's equally hostile. The Dasht-e-Kavir Salt Desert covers around 77,600 square kilometers. In this region, water is scarce and infrastructure is limited. Hence, any military force attempting to enter Iran must first travel long distances through difficult terrain before reaching critical areas. This means that invading this nation would mean fighting through layers of natural defenses before even reaching the core of the country. But the geographical advantage doesn't just stop with its mountains. Another one of its greatest leverage is its position in one of the most vital choke points in the world, the Strait of Hormuz. The nation's decision here could affect not only the opposing forces, but almost all over the world that depends on the oil that passes through this strait. This narrow gateway that connects the Persian Gulf to the open waters of the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea controls almost over 1/5 of the world's energy supply. In other words, this strait is the bloodstream of the modern economic system. Even minor disruptions do not stay contained. Energy prices react almost instantly. Shipping costs would rise, and supply chains would begin to tighten. And in the end, it settles where it is felt the most, by the everyday consumers. Iran's position in the strait is so critical that even the most advanced militaries cannot fully neutralize it. So, we've already established the powerful geography of this nation. How about its economy, which of course is the main attribute for considering a nation as a superpower? At first glance, Iran's economy may not appear to stand alongside the world's dominant financial giants. Yet within its region, it remains one of the most developed and diverse economies in the Middle East. The true foundation of its strength is buried beneath its surface. Iran sits on one of the largest concentrations of natural wealth on the planet. Vast reserves of oil stretch beneath its soil, alongside some of the largest natural gas deposits ever discovered. Beyond energy, the country holds an extraordinary range of strategic minerals such as coal, uranium, copper, iron, phosphate, gold, and silver. In other words, they hold vast assets for the raw materials that make modern civilization possible. They have a huge stockpile of the inputs that power industries, sustain national economies, and fuel military capability. Western countries tried to weaken Iran via some of the most sustained economic pressure campaigns in modern history. They spent years attempting to constrain it through sanctions, trade restrictions, and financial isolation, weakening its currency and placing continuous strain on its economy. The expectation was clear, that prolonged pressure would eventually force collapse or submission. But that collapse never came. Instead of breaking, Iran adapted. Decades of sanctions forced it to evolve. It built parallel networks, alternative trade mechanisms, and domestic industries capable of functioning even under isolation. And yet, this may only represent a fraction of its potential. Without these restrictions, Iran's economic trajectory could look very different. With access to frozen assets estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars, it would gain immediate liquidity, capital that could be reinvested into infrastructure, industry, and expansion. Under those conditions, Iran would not just be stable, it could emerge as a dominant regional economic behemoth. But of course, Western nations don't want this, and Iran understands this clearly. So it did not wait, it adapted. Over time, Tehran strengthened its ties with China and Russia, forming partnerships driven by strategy and necessity. Because for all sides involved, the benefits are substantial. For China, Iran is more than an energy supplier. It is a long-term solution to a critical need. For Iran, this creates a turning point. Industries that spent decades constrained by sanctions are beginning to recover. Opportunities that once seemed closed are slowly returning. And step by step, Iran is building something much larger, an economy that is increasingly difficult to ignore. Now let's talk about something just as critical, its military capability. At first glance, Iran doesn't look like it belongs in the same league as the world's biggest military powers. On paper, it can seem outmatched. But here's where things get interesting. Iran is playing a completely different game. It understands something about modern warfare that even the most technologically advanced nations struggle with. Its strategy is not built to impress, it is built to endure. And you see this clearly in its missile and drone programs. From the very beginning, these systems were never meant for one massive, decisive strike. The goal is simple. Keep pushing again and again until the opponent starts to wear down from the inside. Because warfare has changed. It is no longer just about who has the most advanced weapons. It is about who can keep going. This is where Iran positioned itself. Its systems are built to be produced in large numbers, deployed across multiple fronts, and used in ways that stretch even the most advanced defense networks to their limits. Particular to note here is the Shahed drone. It's so inexpensive that it could be assembled for roughly $20,000 to $30,000. Yet every time it is launched, it forces a response that costs exponentially more. Interceptor systems like Patriot or THAAD can cost millions per engagement. Russia took these systems straight into active conflict, using them to sustain constant pressure on the battlefield. But it didn't stop there. Even the United States began moving in the same direction, developing its own counterpart to mirror the concept. And that tells you everything. When the most powerful militaries in the world start adopting your approach, it means you are setting the standard. Time and time again, Iran has proven it cannot be easily subdued. It has proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with on the global stage. If you'd like to know more about how Gulf states are trying to bypass the powerful leverage of Iran in the Strait of Hormuz, then see you in this next video.